Welcome, innovators, business owners, entrepreneurs, technology experts, academia, government R&D communities, and members of the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. This is Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or NC DefTech. This podcast will showcase various technologies with local and national experts who aim to solve complex national security problems. In the coming weeks, we will highlight North Carolinians with the potential to, or those that have positively contributed to enhancing the capabilities of our warfighters, law enforcement, and first responders. We will also feature government leaders in research and development who have helped shape the future in this domain. These podcasts are just one of the many free services provided by the North Carolina government to assist the North Carolina innovation ecosystem to thrive and provide solutions to our nation.
Talk. One thing I didn't mention at the onset is in North Carolina, we have a One North Carolina Small Business Program where the state actually pays an incentive fee for up to $12,000 for companies in North Carolina that submit. They don't even have to win. That submit to a SBIR. And if you win the SBIR, the state will pay up to $200,000 in matching funds. There's a big incentive here in North Carolina. We really want folks to play in this SBIR game. Our next speaker is Bob Smith, who's the director of the Department of Navy SBIR and STTR Programs. He manages these programs to assist small businesses in getting their technologies fully developed, tested, and inserted into products and services used by the naval warfighters. And he has a background in helping small businesses in innovation. His resume, as you know, we've sent that out. You can see that for yourself. But a couple of things I want to point out is he also was the program manager for the Navy's Rapid Innovation Fund, which supports rapidly inserting small business technology solutions into acquisition programs of record. He also was a Marine Corps helicopter pilot for 22 years. So it's a real pleasure to welcome Mr. Bob Smith. Bob, over to you.
Hi. Thank you so much, Denny, for the introduction. Thank you for having us here today. For the folks on the line, I bet you're really confused with all this information and the fact that we have a Rob, a Bob, a Robert, and a Bobby all on the phone. So it's probably it's like, who the heck is talking? So, hey, the big one on this slide is, you know what? DoD is big and as cumbersome as it is. We're pretty innovative. If you look at those capital assets there on the water, we do some pretty good stuff. So yeah, we're always working hard to be more innovative, to do things faster, do things differently. But don't forget, there's a dedicated hundreds of thousands of sailors, Marines, soldiers, airmen out there doing God's work every day for this nation. And I can't thank them enough. If your question doesn't get answered today, there's my email. That's an L between Robert and Smith. So you want to get to the right one, because if you get it wrong, you end up with a lawyer at one of our commands, depending on who you want to talk to. Next slide. I'm going to be able to go through my slides really quickly because Dr. Willis really covered a lot of it. And we'll see it in another slide that comes up in a second, that we have a lot that we do that's common for each of the services and the agencies. And then we have reasons why we're different. And my analogy to that is, DoD is a family. And just like your family, are you like your brothers and sisters? A little bit here, a lot of it, maybe not. Some of my brothers and sisters I love dearly. I don't like them. But that's family, and we get things done. What do you need to see on this slide is I want to take you all the way to the right side. FY22, $1.1 billion in Phase 3 SBIRs. That is money to small businesses who have been in the SBIR program, getting further development, or someone buying their products because you solved that technical challenge. Okay. And that's, we're really excited because we beat the $1 billion mark last year. Those are non-SBIR dollars. Remember, Phase 3 are authorities, which include the ability to sole source the contract to you, the U.S. small business, because you've already won an award through the SBIR program, regardless of service or agency. So let's go back over to the other left side. How does this all start with the Navy? Where do our topics come from? It comes from acquisition. Just like Dr. Willis, we have already baked in transition. We know where we want your technology to go. We're also going to help you find other places for your technology to go. You see our proposals, they come in. I'll tell you again, we do our best to simplify the federal government. Okay, simplify and federal government don't go together in the same sentence. Okay, but we do our best. Read the instructions. If you go to any of our websites, there's plenty of examples and templates and explanations on how to do this. Please use like Death Tech. They have experts to help you understand, navigate through this process. Don't do it alone. You don't need to pay for that advice. Your state and local resources are there and free. Your PTACs or actually Apex accelerators are there to help you. Anyway, phase one, we down select. We give that proof of feasibility. What's a proof of feasibility? That's a paper product where you say, if I get real money, this is how I'm going to tackle that technology challenge you put in front of me. Okay. We'll get into the amounts very similar to the Army in value and time. And then phase two is build me that prototype. Show me how it's going to do better. Are you going to build me a carrier on a $1.8 million phase two SBIR? No, but you may very well give me a better algorithm to go into that decision support system inside that computer in the Combat Operations Center aboard that carrier. Okay. And a generation from now, maybe you are the Wright-Patterson company that built airplanes 50 years ago, and now you're a major defense prime. Okay. But that's something you're going to hand off to your grandkids. And like I said, phase three, the holy grail of SBIR, you've grown to where your technology and your company's grown to where you can deliver at scale. Next slide. And at least I forget, NavySBIR.com. This slide is wrong. This slide is wrong every time I brief it because the ecosystem changes depending on who you are, who you need to work with. But we've got an idea of the people we need to get to the table at the beginning so we can get to yes early. All it is basic, work. If we don't get the players we need there, we're going to have our challenges. It's not a valley of death. It's chasms of challenge. If we don't work through all of those, it's more like walking through the Gobi Desert without a bottle of water. It's not going to work. So if we get all these players together, you, the team with the technology solution, the primes, the OEMs, you name it, they're there. And some of those circles move in and out. But when you're at the table is, do I have all the folks here that need to say yes? Eyes wide open if they're not there, how far we're going to be able to go, what are the challenges we need to overcome. Our job in the SBIR program is to help get those people to the table for you. Next slide. How do you do business? How do you participate? You can do those QRC codes. Click on that. It's going to take you to the websites where there's more information, realizing there's more information than you have time in the day. If you have trouble sleeping at night, go to one of these. That'll help put you to sleep. Determine your eligibility. Pretty simple. Big ones, U.S., small business, under 500 employees. Okay. Look at the topics. Okay. Does what the DoD need match my research passion? So if you're a codings kind of person, not too sure you should be too excited about any topics related to electrical systems. Okay. You want to get paid to do things that you like to do. So look for where that matchup is. Okay. I hate to say it, foot stomp it, read the instructions. Okay. Read the instruction. Okay. It's disheartening when I hear from a company going, we spent months putting our proposal together, blood, sweat, and tears, but we didn't complete this form correctly. And guess what the instructions told you? If you don't complete the form correctly, we consider that non-compliance and we kick you out. And we do that because it's not fair to the 928 other companies that did it right. Okay. You don't want that to happen to you. And don't wait till the 11th hour, because the other thing our solicitations always say is, if the internet goes down, ain't our fault, you're out of luck. So the number of companies that say, I hit the button 5 minutes before the solicitation closed, but it couldn't get accepted. Too late. So sorry. Catch you next time. Don't start from zero. Use the templates. Use the resources that are there to help you, which are free. Next slide. Okay, when do you want to play? Hey, guess what, folks? We have an open solicitation as we speak. It's a pretty big one. Okay. What's really key besides the dates here? The 19th, we opened in pre-release. We're in pre-release. We go to open the 17th of May. Pre-release is the point in time to where you can have direct conversations with that technical point of contact on that specific topic to make sure what you think you read is what they hope they'd written. Okay. Or the other way I like to put it, how many people don't think they should talk to their customer? Okay. That TPOC is your first customer within the Department of the Navy or the Army or the Air Force. So read that topic, make sure you think you understand it, and give them a call to double check. I have zero empathy for you when you call them and say, hey, I wasn't selected, and I find out you didn't talk to the TPOC. Okay, so sorry. Somebody else called them. Their proposal was just a little bit tighter because they knew exactly what they were looking for. They got closer to it. Do it. The open period. You can still ask your questions, but in this case, we will post your question and we will post the answer on the web for all to see. So you definitely don't want to mention your intellectual property during the open period in a question. Closes 14 June. Remember I said don't wait till the last minute. Consider the 13th of June is your deadline for getting your proposal in. Stop polishing that apple. Get those proposals in there. Okay. And in June, we'll be having our open topic, more information for you right there. It's really, as Dr. Willis says, we continue to look for new ways to engage with industry, to work with the small businesses, to open that aperture, to work with this behemoth called the Department of Defense and the Department of Navy. Okay. And we do that. A lot of SBIR is not only the development of the innovative technology, it's finding innovative ways to do business differently. We pilot all of those new initiatives, and then we hand it to acquisition and go, here you go. This is what works. You can scale this now so we can all move faster. Next slide. Okay, evaluation criteria are virtually pretty much the same for everybody. Okay. It's addressing the technical challenge, but here are the criteria. Technical merit, people doing it. So if you're a coatings expert, I don't expect for you to be doing anything, say, in electrical or pump systems, and we're looking for your team. You need strong business folks on your team, but probably not on the research team. Okay, we evaluate those with the technical experts within the Navy. Okay, we don't hire those out. Those are government employees that do that. And you see your selection percentages there. Okay, 1 out of 5. People go, oh, it's tough. That's actually slightly better than if you went to go see a venture capitalist. And oh, by the way, if we give you money, we take no ownership of your company. It's non-diluted capital. Okay, government's going to hand you money to solve our solutions, and you get to keep that intellectual property. Okay, how do you move from phase 1 to phase 2? First off, talk to your TPOC. Keep and continue conversations to where they say, hey, it's enough talking, get to work. Deliver on what you promised you were going to deliver on. Okay, and we get to go work that prototype. Next slide. We do it slightly different than our sister services and agencies. We break up the phase 2 application process. Every company is allowed to submit, every company that wins a phase 1 is allowed to submit a phase 2. It'll be in your contract. Oh, by the way, your phase 2 proposal is due on this date. Don't be late. It's a contract. We hold you to it. If you're late, you're out of the game. Okay. But we break it up into an initial phase 2 proposal and a full phase 2 proposal. Less paperwork, less headache for folks that aren't going to go move forward. Guess what? The Navy put templates together. NavySBIR.com/links/forms. Okay. Don't recreate the wheel if it's already there. Okay. Next slide. Different kinds of phase 2s. Just understand we use this to have the flexibility to move things faster if we can. Sequential phase 2 is we liked what you did in that first phase 2. We made a lot of progress, but we didn't quite maybe get across the finish line. We're going to give you a second phase 2 to get there. Or we like what you did, but now we want to tweak it, modify it to address a different challenge. Okay. That's your second phase 2. Subsequent. What is that? Somebody else says, we like what you did, Navy. Do you mind if we fund a phase 2? you're going to get one of two answers from the Navy. Sure, because every phase 2 is allowed 2 phase 2s per company per topic. So the Navy is going to say one of two things. Here you go, Army, Air Force, other defense agency. You can have the second phase 2. In fact, let's talk because there's a little more we want done. Or, sorry, they're doing great things for them. We're going to keep them here. In other words, you got two people that want your technology, and you're going to be working with one of them. A pretty good deal. Okay, next slide. And before that, for instance, I want to go on subsequent phase 2s, especially with Dr. Willis before that. You'll be amazed at how much applicability each of these topics have for our sister services. And we just have to tweak them to our mission, our environments where we're going to work. I hope everybody realizes that the Army has the biggest Navy in the world. Okay, if your head hasn't exploded, let me explain that. The Army has more ships than the Navy. We have more combatant ships, i.e. we have guns on our Navy ships. But how do you think a whole army, land army, makes it across the ocean to wherever we may have to go to conflict? So guess what? There's applicability of what works on a Navy ship that's going to work on an Army ship. Did you know that the Army has more helicopters than the Navy and the Air Force combined? So guess what? Start with that first customer, and like all good marketing, who's my next customer? What do I need to do to please them? And that's how it all works together. We do a lot of work with our sister services. In fact, we're joining with the Army as we speak right now on a diver system. What? Okay, because guess what? The Army, Navy, and the Air Force all have divers. There you go. Phase 3. What is that? It's government funding to continue your phase 1, phase 2 work. But it's coming out of someone else's checkbook. It's not coming out of that 3.2% extramural funding. It's coming out of the other billions of dollars within the federal government to either buy your product or continue to develop it, to modify it, adapt it, to continue, complete, or derive, that SBIR from previous topics. And that's what we work for. There's a guidebook there. Government is complicated. The number of contracts officers or program officers that understand SBIR authorities, we continually train them, but there's always more. That guidebook helps them understand where the authorities are at to allow them to give you that sole source contract. Next slide. Differentiators. We really tie our topics to naval needs. We have an idea where it's going to go. We like having the conversation about what your technology is, but it works a lot better if you say, I've looked what your challenges are, and this is how what I do can solve that problem. Because if you show up with me with, here's my bright and shiny, this is what we developed, and you have no idea where it's going to go, you haven't solved my problem. You've just given me another problem. Okay. Proposals, 10 pages, 50% less than the standard. We have the contracting command that helps us move quicker. You see our funding things. Your first payment, 15 days, not too shabby. Okay. And we're going to get the transition programs because we have a simple proposition. We don't get a transition. You don't get a commercialization unless you're a successful company. That you can take those two people in the garage and grow that company to 20, 200 to where you can deliver. Okay. Because there's nothing worse than having a successful phase 2 and the Navy saying, we like what you did. We need you to produce 1,000 of those by the end of the year. We're looking at 5,000 more in the years to come. And you look us in the eye and go, you don't understand. Mom doesn't sew that fast. And that is a true story. So now we've had a failure because you can't deliver that innovative solution. Okay. Next slide.
Hey, Bob, if you could kind of wrap it up here.
I'll wrap it up quickly. Okay. Some best practices. Just know we keep working on getting better at it. Okay. Matching funds. We always like, if someone comes through matching funding, I find the SBIR funds to make it happen. Okay. So instead of having a $1.8 million phase 2, I can give you a $35 million phase 2. It's just who else can bring money to the table. If they really want it, we make it happen. Next slide. Okay. Programs here. STP, 23 years strong. Companies that go through that program have a 20% higher rate of commercialization. We put a group together that helps with experimentation. Even the Navy folks in the acquisition side, R&D side, don't understand what it takes to get a product on a Navy ship or a Marine Corps ground vehicle. Navy launch is, guess what? If you have a dual use technology, We're going to help you figure out whether or not going to VCs is where you want to go. And how do you do that if you do? Okay. We want you to succeed, because if you succeed, we succeed. Next slide. More resources. You're going to hear from Miss on the right there, Miss Kelly Kiernan, about cybersecurity. It's a big deal, folks. We got to get it right, because guess what? The bad guys don't play by the rules, but we have to. Okay. Other resources right there, the QRC codes. NavySBIRSearch.com will show you every topic the Navy's ever had, and you get 2 points of contact. The technical point of contact from the Navy, give them a call. How's it been going? Did you solve the problem? It gives you the company that's working with the Navy. How is it working with the Navy? Worst experience of my life. I'll never work with a son of a gun ever again. Well, that's a good data point. Most of the time it was a great experience, but we hit a technical roadblock. We couldn't get it across the finish line. Isn't that interesting? That's my technical trade space. Maybe we should talk. Maybe we should team. You'll be amazed at how many of my SBIR firms have other small businesses as their subcontractors. Okay. So a way to grow the business. SBIR.com.gov has got all of the SBA stuff. And there's the former PTACs. Reach out to your local one. They're there to help you participate with the U.S. federal government. Next slide. Other ways to stay inside. Soundings, get our newsletter. See what we're up to, where we're heading, what we're going to do. You might even find out which town we're going to come visit. So there you go. And subject to questions, which are going to come later, I'll be here. Look forward to talking to you. And love virtual events. I also like in-person ones even better. So let's see how that one goes. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Defense Technology Talks, hosted by the North Carolina Defense Technology Transition Office, or DEFTEC. The views expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual contributors. As indicated, DEFTEC does not take responsibility for those statements or opinions and accepts no responsibility or liability for any inaccuracy or omissions reported during this program. The content and interviews are fair use for instructional purposes and to build awareness for the North Carolina innovation ecosystem. The full version of this presentation has been uploaded to our Mobilize platform. Mobilize is just another free service provided to you to access more national security and business collaboration opportunities. You can sign up for more information at deftech.nc.gov. Join us soon for the next podcast coming to a platform near you. DEFTEC is a subsidiary of the North Carolina Military Business Center and receives its support from Fayetteville Technical Community College.